This is Noth in Aberdeenshire, the biggest Pictish settlement ever found. It's reckoned up to 4,000 people called this place home at its height. But who were the mysterious Picts? Where did they come from? Where did they go? And why is everything we think we know about them constantly changing? Welcome to Scotland Unplugged and the mystery of the Picts. This is Sweno's stone. It's thought to date back to the 8th or 9th century, and it's a class 2 Pictish stone, meaning that it has Christian and Pictish symbols on it. As far as the people in the know can make out, it tells the tale of a battle, and possibly the inauguration of a monarch. I say inauguration because we just don't know if they were crowned or not. It may also be a biblical reference, possibly David going into battle with Goliath. It's quite something to see in its big glass case, and it's thought this is how it would originally have been placed. I don't mean behind glass, but where it's sitting now. That's unusual. I went to see the Eagle Stone in Strathpeffer a few months back, and that had been moved from further down in the valley. The main issue we have with the Picts is illustrated beautifully by this stone. They were craftsmen, great with their hands. They left behind amazing pieces of stone and intricately worked jewellery. They just didn't do writing. That means they're a bit of an enigma. The word Pict may have come from the Romans. The first mention of a word Picte is from a piece of writing in the year 297 by the Roman orator Eumenes. It's thought to have meant painted people and to have been a bit of an insult. There are other theories though. Some suggest it may come from the word Pects, which was in use right up until the 19th century and basically meant something like the ancestors. We have no record of what they called themselves and even what language they spoke. It's thought it could have been a Celtic language, similar to modern day Welsh or Cornish or Breton. Julius Caesar described the ancient Britons, who he'd met in 55 and 54 BC, saying they dye themselves with woad, which produces a blue colour and makes their appearance in battle more terrible. They wear long hair and shave every part of their body, save for the head and the upper lip. But Caesar invaded from the south. He was describing all the ancient Britons and not any group in particular. In the past, historians have thought of the Picts as something different, something exotic, and they do have quite a fantastical origin story. The Northumbrian monk, the Venerable Bede, tells a tale of them coming from Scythia, writing that they sailed out in their warships and landed on the north coast of Ireland. They asked the Irish if they could settle there, and they said no, but they did know of a colder, more miserable place a bit further north, where very few people wanted to live. Then the Picts asked if they could possibly have some wives. The Irish said yes, but on one condition. If ever there was a question of succession, they should defer to the maternal line. Some believe the Picts were a matrilineal society. The written bit of history we have from them are kings' lists left behind, and the lines of succession don't make an awful lot of sense, which could indicate it was matrilineal. We just don't know. In the Victorian era, the Picts were thought of as a mysterious race. Scythia was on the Black Sea, and the Scythians themselves dated back to around 9000 BC. Herodotus, a Greek scholar, wrote about them around 430 BC. He described them as painted, but that record made them part of the classical world. If you're going to claim ownership of something, making out you're descended from an ancient society gives you a bit more credibility. It's tempting to think of the Picts as angry, illiterate ginger hobbits, but they were more cultured than you might think. Just down there, in the village of Riney, is the Crossstane, the Crow Stone. Recent excavations around it revealed a settlement surrounded by walls and ditches. They found shards of glass beakers from France, used to drink wine from earthenware jugs from the Mediterranean. There were moulds used to make brooches, pins, jewellery, and tiny figurines that matched some of the other images on stones. They were a sophisticated society, but we don't know if they actually were one society. Eventually there was a Pictland or a Pictavia, but it's thought that might only have lasted about 6 generations. Between the Battle of Dunechten, where they defeated the Northumbrians, and their loss against the Vikings in the Battle of 839, when all of the royal family were wiped out. It may have been more about the kings of Fortune trying to consolidate their rule over as much of the country as possible. The Picts could have been tribal, like the descriptions of their ancestors. This is Lundin Links, in the very picturesque East Neuk of Fife. A storm here in the winter of 1965 exposed burial kists and skeletons inside. There are actually no markers or signs or anything in there to tell you where the burial cairn was, and maybe that's a good thing. Over the years, other skeletons and bits of bone had turned up in different places, mainly when they were excavating along the old railway line. Further excavations and radiocarbon dating revealed a cemetery in this area used between 450 and 650 AD. Prime Pict time. In total, they found 22 skeletons. They carefully catalogued what they found, and that allowed for further tests as the technology advanced. Last year, scientists released the results of a genome sequencing study on 7 sets of remains buried here, and one more further north in Ballantor. When they sequenced the genes, they found genetic similarities with other people living in different parts of the UK around the same time. It suggests the Picts weren't a distinct genetic group. They were similar to other groups living here before the Romans arrived and walled them out. When they compared the genes with modern populations, they found similarities with people living in northern and western Scotland, Northumbria, Wales and Northern Ireland. That suggests they're still around. They didn't disappear or get killed off by the Scots like a lot of people thought in the past. They just merged with them and the Saxons and the Vikings and everyone else who turned up on these shores. The thing is though, 8 people isn't a massive selection. And they might not even be Pictish. They could just happen to be from the same time period. And just to complicate things, it's thought Bede might have thought of Scythia as modern day Scandinavia. They're still an enigma wrapped inside a puzzle, perched on top of a mystery. We're going to be debating this one for a while. Still, there are worse things to talk about.